We were 3 months away from the wedding. The invitations were designed, deposits paid, and her Pinterest board had grown to 1,172 pins. To anyone looking in from the outside, Emma and I were on track for the kind of storybook ending people toast to: stable careers, a down payment on a house, 2 golden retrievers already picked out in name only. I thought I had it all. Turns out, I had about 90 days left. I met Emma 4 years ago at a tech networking event. She wasn't in the industry, she was tagging along with a friend, and I think that's part of why we clicked. While everyone else buzzed about product roadmaps and app launches, we ended up in a corner, talking about obscure photography books and our shared hatred for brunch lines. She was magnetic. The kind of person who walked into a room and changed its temperature. And I, the introverted developer who preferred back-end code to back-and-forth small talk, somehow found myself drawn into her gravity. We dated slowly, cautiously, even. She'd just come out of a long-term relationship, and I was still licking wounds from a workplace betrayal that had gutted my confidence. But we found our rhythm. At least, I thought we had. I proposed on the balcony of our first apartment together, the same place where we'd once eaten cereal straight from the box during a power outage and laughed like millionaires. She said yes with tears in her eyes. And for the first few weeks, I let myself believe in forever. Then something shifted. It started with the phone habits, little things at first. She used to leave her phone face up on the kitchen counter while we cooked. Now it was always in her back pocket, even in sweatpants. She'd smile at texts she didn't want to explain, flinch when notifications popped up while we were watching Netflix. I noticed, of course. But I didn't say anything. I didn't want to be that guy, the jealous type, the paranoid groom to be. Besides, she told me it was just wedding stress. That her mind was overloaded. That I needed to trust her. And I did. Until I saw the name flash on her screen. Caleb. A name I hadn't heard in years. Her ex. The long-term one. The first love she never talked about unless drunk or triggered by an old song. I didn't say anything that night. I just watched her read the message, smile faintly, and type something back before quickly locking her phone again. That was the first moment I knew. Something had cracked. Not necessarily everything. But enough. I slept next to her that night, staring at the ceiling, 1,000 possible explanations spinning in my head, each one worse than the last. She was lying next to me. But in every way that counted. She was already somewhere else. The next morning, I made her coffee like always, oat milk, half a spoon of sugar, no stir. She smiled, kissed me on the cheek, and said, "You're the best." But my gut kept whispering, something's off. The signs that once seemed like quirks now looked like warnings I had ignored. Like the way she started locking her phone. We never had a rule about phones, we respected each other's space. But now, it wasn't respect. It was concealment. Her screen time ballooned after midnight. She'd fall asleep clutching her phone like a lifeline. Or how she started comparing me to friends from her past. "You never used to be this quiet," she'd say. Caleb always used to push me to be bold, to chase things. She'd bring up his name casually, like it meant nothing. But I knew better. Names don't slip out of nowhere. Not the name of an ex. Not that often. One night, I came home late from a product deployment and found her watching old videos on her laptop. She quickly slammed it shut. "Just some old vacation stuff," she muttered. But I caught the still frame on the screen, a beach, a shirtless guy. Caleb. The one I'd only ever seen in grainy Facebook tags. I didn't confront her. Not yet. Instead, I did what coders do when debugging. I observed. I traced the logic. I waited for the pattern to emerge. Then one night, I walked in from a jog, and she was on a call. She didn't hear me come in, noise-canceling headphones. But I heard him. "It's not about him," Caleb was saying. "You're allowed to feel things. You're not crazy." Her back stiffened when she noticed me. She ended the call immediately, turned, and forced a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Work stuff," she said too fast. "Just a vendor." I nodded. Cool. But in that moment, something in me snapped. Because it wasn't just that she was talking to him. It was how familiar her body looked when she spoke to him, relaxed, animated, safe. I hadn't seen that version of her in weeks. And that's when I knew. I wasn't her home anymore. I was her waiting room. It happened on a Sunday. We had just returned from visiting her parents. Her mom had hugged me extra tight that day. Her dad had told me I was a good man. Looking back, I wonder if they knew. Or maybe they were just trying to hold on to the illusion one last time before it shattered. We were standing in the kitchen when she cleared her throat, a sound more like a warning than a habit. "Can we talk?" she said. That's never a good sign. I leaned against the counter, arms folded, trying to appear casual. "Sure." She didn't look me in the eye. Instead, she fiddled with her ring, sliding it back and forth like it was a foreign object. "I've been confused," she started. "About everything. About us. I don't know if it's the wedding pressure or Caleb?" I asked. Silence. Dead silence. Her head snapped up. I didn't yell. I didn't accuse. I just asked. But the way her face trained told me I had hit the target dead center. She tried to spin it, of course. "We've just been talking. I wanted closure. You know, before we get married?" I offered. She nodded slowly. "You don't ask for closure 3 months before your wedding," I said. "You ask for closure before you say yes to a proposal." She didn't answer. Instead, she said the line that would detonate our life together. "I think I need a break." I smiled. I think that unnerved her more than if I'd screamed. "A break?" I repeated. "I just need time. To figure out what I want. What we want. I still love you. I do. I just..." She trailed off. "I need to be sure." And with that, the illusion crumbled. I didn't argue. I didn't plead. I simply said, "Okay." "Okay?" She blinked. "That's it?" "Yeah," I said, turning away. "Take all the time you need." She thought she had the upper hand. What she didn't know was that I had already started packing. Not my bags, but my exit plan. I didn't leave that night. I stayed, like a ghost inside the life we built together. But something had changed. Not just in her, in me. The moment she asked for a break, I realized that I had spent too long waiting for someone to pick me. To choose me. To see me as enough. I wasn't going to beg for clarity while she explored her feelings. I was going to vanish. Not in anger. Not in revenge. But in quiet precision. I started small. I stopped asking questions. No more "How was your day?" Or "Want to do something this weekend?" I gave her the space she wanted, and used that space to build my escape. I spoke to my real estate agent. The market was in my favor. Our house, purchased together but titled under my name alone, could sell fast if listed strategically. We had built equity. I had the numbers. I had the legal right. And she had asked for space, so I gave it to her, starting with the property she thought was ours. Then I began sorting through the digital paper trail, shared subscriptions, accounts, utilities. I started removing her access bit by bit. Quietly. Without confrontation. Just the slow withdrawal of shared life. She was gone most nights anyway. Out thinking. I didn't need to ask where. During one of those nights, I boxed up her things. Labeled them. Stacked them in the garage. I left a note. "Take what you need. I won't be here." I emptied my side of the closet. My books, my keepsakes, my passwords, all gone from our space like I never existed. The dog stayed with her. It was her childhood pet. I left without saying goodbye. When she texted me the next morning asking if we could talk later, I replied, "Sure. I'll be around." I never said where. The house sold in 6 days. I didn't list it publicly. My agent had a network of investors and upscale buyers looking for turnkey properties in our neighborhood. After one walkthrough and a single low-key bidding war, I accepted a cash offer slightly above asking. It was too easy, like the universe was pushing me out the door I left cracked open. While the paperwork moved, I stayed elsewhere, a short-term rental I'd used for work trips before. Quiet. No photos. No forwarding address. I even used an old business alias for the lease, one I'd registered back when I freelanced on the side. Emma didn't know I was gone yet. I saw her only once in those days, by accident, or maybe fate. I was driving by the house to meet a notary for the final sign-off when I saw her car parked in front. She was sitting on the porch steps, holding a paper cup of coffee, looking like a woman waiting for something that would never come. I didn't stop. Didn't wave. Just kept driving. She wanted space. I was giving her the galaxy. The final paperwork was done within the week. Funds hit my account 2 days later. I transferred half the money to a separate account, just in case she tried to raise a claim. Technically, the house was mine. I'd bought it with my own savings before the engagement. She had contributed to monthly bills, yes, but nothing legally binding. Still, I wanted to be fair. So I made arrangements to leave her what she'd invested, plus a little more. I wrote it out in a letter. No drama. No accusations. Just closure. I left the envelope in the kitchen drawer. The key was taped under the mat. And I walked away from the house we were supposed to grow old in. But I didn't feel grief. I felt reborn. The last thing I did before disappearing was disable the doorbell camera. Not because I didn't want to see her face when she realized I was gone. But because I knew watching it would tempt me to feel something. To second-guess. To crack the quiet resolve I built piece by piece. And I wasn't going to give her, or myself, that chance. I didn't ghost her. I just faded. Like mist at sunrise. My phone number remained active, but it rang into voicemail. My email was untouched. Her messages flowed like water into a sealed bottle. I left no forwarding address. No news start announcement. Just silence. The money from the house gave me runway. I transferred most of it into a new account under a business name. Rented a loft in a city 4 hours away. Not far enough to raise flags, but far enough to feel like exile. A friend from college ran a growing tech firm and had once joked about hiring me if I ever got bored. I emailed him a resume with no return address. He hired me after a single call and didn't ask questions. Maybe he saw something in my voice, that kind of burn-it-down calm only breakage can birth. In the mornings, I walked to work past coffee shops that didn't know our names. On weekends, I found peace in bookstores and unfamiliar parks. I wasn't happy, but I was clean, free of knots and games and half-promises. Every so often, I would glance at her social media. Not out of longing. Out of curiosity. She posted a few pictures with cryptic captions. Some people change, some just leave. When you think you know someone. And the best one. Healing. Healing from what? A clean break? A fair payout? A future she abandoned? No one knew where I had gone. Not even mutual friends. I left no trace except a clean financial cut and a home that was no longer hers. It was brutal. But it was freedom. And for the first time in years, I was the only one writing the next chapter. I hadn't thought about her in weeks. Not deeply. She'd become a past tense in my mind, not an ache, not a wound, just a sentence that had already ended. The kind of memory you don't delete, but also don't revisit. She had asked for a break, and I'd given her a full stop. But life has a way of circling back. Especially when you least want it to. I was at my new job when it happened. Late afternoon, a regular Tuesday. I just finished presenting a new UI flow to the product team when I noticed the receptionist waving at me from across the hallway with a cautious look. "There's someone asking for you," she said. "Says she's an old friend." I knew before I saw her. Emma stood just outside the glass doors, holding her coat like a shield. Her hair was windblown, and there were dark circles under her eyes, the kind you earn from too many nights replaying a decision you regret. I stepped outside, closing the door softly behind me. We stood in silence for a few moments. She didn't know what to say, and I wasn't going to help her find the words. Finally, she whispered, "You disappeared." "I did," I said. Calm. Measured. "You sold everything. Just left." "I gave you what you asked for," I said, still calm. "You wanted space." "I didn't mean for you to." She paused, voice catching. "I thought we'd talk. Maybe come back together." "That was your plan," I said. "Not mine." She looked like she was about to cry, but I didn't reach out. I didn't console her. That was someone else's job now, maybe Caleb's, if he was still around. "I just needed time," she said again, like repeating it would rewind the past. "And I gave it to you," I replied. "And in that time, I realized I deserved someone who doesn't need time to decide if they want me." She flinched. "I never stopped loving you," she whispered. "I did," I said. "Not cruel. Just honest." She stood there for another few seconds, as if waiting for the old version of me to appear, the man who'd give her another chance. Who'd chase her down and beg her to come home. But he was gone. She finally nodded, said nothing, and walked away. And just like that, she left again. This time, I didn't watch her go. I turned and walked back into the life I'd built without her. Emma didn't go quietly. A week after our brief, Uncomfortable reunion outside my new office. I found myself tagged in a viral post I hadn't asked for. A friend texted me. "Bro, you seeing this?" The link took me to her public Instagram account. The photo? Our old front steps. Empty. Cold. Staged in black and white for added drama. The caption? "He disappeared. Sold the house. Took everything. I just asked for time to figure out my heart, and he vanished. Be careful who you trust." Broken heart emoji. The comments exploded. "You deserve better. What kind of man does that? He sounds unstable. Good riddance. Tag is at. Will ruin him." I didn't respond. I didn't need to. Because one of her old friends, someone I'd met once at a party, commented beneath the flood. Didn't she say she was reconnecting with her ex? She literally told me she needed space because she was confused about Caleb. You all need the whole story. Within hours, the narrative shifted. People started digging. Comparing posts. Piecing together dates and screenshots. Someone even uploaded an old story of hers with a guy's arm in frame, the tattoo unmistakably not mine. The internet, as it does, turned. Now the comments were, "Wait. She wanted a break? So he moved on and that's a crime? Girl, you played stupid games and won the grand prize. This is giving main character syndrome." She tried to backtrack. Turned off comments. Changed the caption to something vague. But it was too late. People had taken screenshots. Threads had already begun unraveling her victim narrative. She sent me a DM that night. "I didn't mean for this to blow up. Can we talk?" I left it on read. The same silence she once gave me. Let the world see what I had dealt with behind closed doors. Let them witness the entitlement, the rewriting, the performance. And me? I stayed quiet. Let her be exposed by her own spotlight. There was no need for revenge, just patience. Because sometimes, karma doesn't knock. It posts. I used to believe closure meant sitting across from someone, laying everything out, getting mutual understanding, and shaking hands with the past. Now I know that's a lie. Closure doesn't require conversation. Sometimes, it requires distance. Silence. Boundaries. Emma kept reaching out. A voicemail every few days. Emails filled with justifications, apologies, even half-baked jokes, like we could laugh it all off. I was confused. I made a mistake. But we were building a life, doesn't that count for something? It counted. Until she put it on pause. And while she was figuring herself out, I was packing boxes, closing accounts, signing documents, severing years of connection with surgical precision. You don't get to pause someone and expect them to wait. She wanted closure on her terms. A coffee. A final talk. Maybe a hug and a last look, the kind that leaves the door cracked open. But I'd already walked through and bolted it behind me. The only closure I needed was waking up in a place where her name wasn't on the mailbox. Where I didn't flinch when I saw couples in the grocery store. Where I could be alone without feeling abandoned. I wasn't bitter. I wasn't angry. I just didn't care anymore. And that, I realized, was the most powerful kind of closure there is, when you can look at someone who once shattered you and feel absolutely nothing. She texted one last time, weeks later. "I guess this is goodbye then?" I never replied. Closure isn't something you give. It's something you claim. It came 1 year later, almost to the day. I'd nearly forgotten her birthday until the notification popped up on an old synced calendar I hadn't touched in months. I dismissed it without thinking. But later that night, a new message appeared in my inbox. No subject line. Just her name. I hovered over the notification for a long time. Not because I wanted to read it, but because I didn't expect to feel anything. And I didn't. Still, I opened it. "Hey. I don't know if this will reach you. I don't even know if you'll read it. But I wanted to say something. Without expecting anything in return. You didn't deserve what I did." I told myself it was okay to explore what-ifs, but I realize now that people who are truly committed don't entertain what-ifs. They build what's next. You were building. I was wandering. I've thought about writing this message 100 times, but I always deleted it. I told myself you'd moved on. Maybe you have. Maybe you're happy now. I just wanted to say, thank you. For not yelling. For not dragging me through drama. For letting me go the exact way I asked, even though I didn't deserve it. I hope wherever you are, Whoever you're with, they know what they have. Emma. I stared at it. Then, without replying, I archived it. I didn't need to respond. I didn't need to rage or forgive or even remember. I just closed the tab and got back to work. Because the truth is, I wasn't building a life to prove her wrong anymore. I was building it because I finally knew what I deserved. And what I'd never accept again.